Hello and welcome to a Blaseball Statistical History, a look at the Baltimore Crabs' development across the expansion era. The Crabs were the team to beat in the discipline era, achieving a hat-trick in Season 10 and ascending to Blaseball 2. They do not start the expansion era in the ILB, but return unexpectedly on day 73 of Season 12 due to a breach, bringing with them 3 other teams. The returned Crabs are evolved to Base 1, with most players still cursed from their showdown with the Shelled One's pods. They do not look like the overpowering force they had been. As they arrived late in the season, the Crabs did not play in Season 12, automatically finishing bottom of the league and entering party time. They were able to partake in the election, and used their wills to grant themselves 4th strike for the next season, and move Jacoby Podcast into their rotation. They won a blessing, boosting the whole team's defence, and benefited from the Firefighter's blessing, which boosted their pitching. There is no change to the lineup, but the rotation suddenly got threatening. And in Season 13, the Crabs were back to their old ways. They finished 4th in the league, heading into the postseason, which they won, adding a 4th championship to their name. During the season, they had 1 positive and 1 negative blood rain, and Baldwin Breadwinner had an allergic peanut reaction. They used their wills to steal Logan Horseman from the Dalle and revoke Evelton McBlaze II, who roams to the Mechanics. They also win 2 blessings, as Adalberto Tossa becomes a credit to the team, and the whole team will benefit from playing in black hole weather. Season 14 sees a shortening and improvement of the lineup. But oh how the mighty fall, as the Crabs drop to 23rd in the league. They get wild-carded into the postseason, but are swept out by the Moist Talkers in the Division Series. They appear in the seasonal reading, but it has no effect on the team. During the season, they lose a win to black hole weather, deal with 7 trips to elsewhere, but benefit from 8 parties. Finishing so low, the Crabs get 3 wills, which they use to infuse Top Fox, reclaim Nagomi McDaniel from the Flowers, and steal the incinerated York Silk, who exits the Hall of Flame with the returned and debt modifications. 3 teams want Crabs players, as the Worms take Enid Marlowe, the Dalle reverse last season's trade, sending back Baldwin Breadwinner, who is promptly taken by the Fridays, who had swapped them into the Crabs just before they ascended. The new additions are big hitters, meaning the lineup now has real power. And the Crabs ricochet off the bottom of the league right back to the top. They storm into the postseason, but are eliminated in the league series, once again by the Moist Talkers. Top Fox has a negative blood rain, having returned from elsewhere, but Pedro enjoyed their trip so much they leave again. The Crabs contend with mysterious forces this season, as 5 of their players are observed, and they face 10 consumer attacks, which between them lead to 3 players being redacted. Alyssa Harrell and Nagomi McDaniel are the first players to be redacted as a result of consumer attacks, when their soul scream reached 0. In the election, the Crabs choose to move Squid Galvanic to their shadows, and re-roll Kennedy Loser's flinch modification, which lands on Haunted. Another 3 teams want Crabs players, as the Worms take Jacoby Podcast, the Moist Talkers take York Silk, and the Flowers take Brock Forbes. The Crabs gaining Luis Acevedo, Fish Summer and Parker Parra in exchange. They also win 2 blessings, gaining the 0 blood type and recruiting Parker Meng from the Dalle. The team is a lot shorter post-redactions, and there have been some serious losses, but the lineup retains some power. They fall to 17th in the league, as they lose a win to black hole weather. Pedro Davids faces a negative blood rain, and then heads elsewhere for the rest of the season. Finn James defends against a consumer attack, and there are 5 parties. The team also gain Brisket Frendo, an attractor, who is the first redacted player to rejoin a team when Silver Roadhouse bats them in. With their wills, the Crabs steal Chorby Soul from the Flowers. They also manage, due to their carcinization modification, which allowed them to steal the Sunbeam's best hitter for a game, to take Alston Cerveza more permanently, through a foreshadow swap with Brisket. They win 2 blessings, giving Top Fox an item and moving Alston onto their lineup. There was no change in the rotation, and the lineup is both better from Alston's arrival and worse from Chorby's. It is overall worse for the Crabs, as they drop a further 2 places. This is not helped by the loss of 3 wins to Black Hole Weather, and Sun 2 only activating for their opponents. Parker Meng has a negative blood rain, and the lineup is reverbed twice, while the rotation faces its own change from Fax Machine. After spending nearly a whole season away, Pedro returns from elsewhere. But there are 2 permanent departures, as Chorby Soul is incinerated and replaced by Trinity Smart, and shortly after, Luis Acevedo is incinerated and replaced by John Halifax. There are 9 parties as a small compensation. In the election, the Crabs move Enid Marlowe into their lineup. The Georges vote to take Fish Summer, and as Fish is no longer on their team, when the Crabs use their second will to swap them for Wyatt Mason IV, they just trade players between the Georges and Tacos. Fax Machine has made the rotation a lot stronger, and despite plenty of change, the lineup hasn't been too badly damaged. And the Crabs make the most of it, coming 9th in the league and heading into another postseason, where they are knocked out in the division series by the Pies. They gain a win from Sun 1, but Chorby Soul 3 has a hard time with a negative blood rain before being incinerated. Montgomery Bullock spends a day elsewhere, and Fax Machine moves Parker Meng into the rotation. Then the team face 9 consumer attacks, but are able to defend against all but 1. The Crabs receive 3 gifts, gaining soul patches, an item, and the replica of Chorby Soul who follows the original into incineration. Their wills are used to infuse Parker Para and move Montgomery Bullock to the shadows. And once again, the Crabs are shaping up to be a pretty impressive team. But in Season 19, being bad is good, and the Crabs finish joint 12th in the league. They do appear in the seasonal reading with the rest of the league, as Lorcan Smart becomes an Undertaker. They gain 4 wins from Sun 2 and have 5 parties. 4 players take trips to elsewhere, and 2 players take trips to other teams, as Feedback Weather sends Top Fox to the Lovers, and Alden Cash Money 4 to the Garages. The team get 2 gifts this season, becoming fireproof and gaining the aforementioned Alden Cash Money 4. In the election, they infuse Montgomery Bullock and made a trade with the Wild Wings to acquire Fran Beans. But the Worms are back again, this time wanting Parker Meng. The Crabs win 3 blessings, boosting their pitching and seeing their Shadows pitching and base running adjusted. They also fall foul of a Flowers blessing, as Alston Cerveza becomes an underachiever. It's a powerful team following the pitching boost, and the lineup has no batter below 4 stars. The Crabs just miss out on the postseason, as they finish 10th in the league. They gain 2 wins from Sun 2, but sacrifice 1 to the Black Hole. There are plenty of positives this season, as Adalberto Tossa has 2 positive blood rains. Both consumer attacks are defended against, and the team get 3 parties. There are 4 new trips to elsewhere, 1 open-ended, and Feedback sends Jacoby Podcast to the Pies in exchange for Kaz Fiasco. Fax Machine then pops Kaz in the shadows, as well as moving Finn James there. 4 gifts see the Crabs become early to the party, soundproof, and gain 2 items. They use their wills to move Kaz Fiasco to their lineup, and to re-roll Alston Cerveza's Underachiever modification. They also win 2 blessings, improving Adalberto Tossa's coldness, and then improving the rotation's coldness at the cost of their ruthlessness. The rotation is now stacked high with stars. It pays off, as the Crabs finish 2nd in the league, and only concede 1 game in the postseason to claim their 5th championship. They are helped on their way by 9 additional weather wins. The players are slightly too fond of elsewhere as more extended trips happen, but Fax Machine makes a rotation change, all 3 consumer attacks are defended against, and Kaz Fiasco gets to party. They get 3 gifts in Season 21, all modifications. Late to the party and fireproof for the team, and ambitious for Zerul Kramer. In the election, they use their wills to gain a replica of James Mora and re-roll Adalberto Tossa's credit to the team modification. This is somewhat wasted, as the Flowers then steal them, with the Stakes taking Connor Haley and the Wild Wings taking Fran Beans. They send Evelton McBlaze II back, who promptly roams to the Millennials. But the Crabs do win a blessing, making all of their rotation heist experts. Despite these player trades, the Crabs remain a hugely strong team, proving it with another top-of-the-league result. However, this time they are knocked out of the postseason in the League Series by the Breathmints. During the season, they gained 11 wins from Suns 2 and 30, trips to elsewhere decrease in length, and Kaz Fiasco gets a positive blood rain. The team do lose a Shadows player to the Fridays, but voicemail allows Pedro Davids a brief stint in the lineup. This season's gifts see the Crabs choose 3 replicas, the Dynamic Duo and New Meganito. They use a will to move Silver Roadhouse to the lineup, and another to make a player swap with the Breathmints. However, they lose Michelle Sportsman almost immediately, as the Breathmints had been intending to trade them with the Garages. The Shoe Thieves decide they want Jessica Telephone, and the Georges steal an item. The Crabs do win a blessing, alternating some of their team, but they have to send a Shadows player to the Garages, and see Avila Guzman and Kaz Fiasco become skipping and a subtractor at the hands of the Worms and the Fridays. The rotation is shorter, and the alternation blessing made one of their best batters substantially worse. This is not the all-powerful Crabs we have become used to. And their slide down to 13th proves it, even with 11 weather winds to aid them. Trips to elsewhere increase again, as 7 players disappear for a bit. And Fax Machine is also on the rise, making 4 rotation changes, whilst Voicemail makes 2 batter ones. Silver Roadhouse and Enid Marlowe both get a positive blood rain, and although the Crabs lose a Shadows player to the Stakes, they also steal one from the Firefighters. They only get 2 gifts this season, both items. Of the available party favours, the Crabs opt to become roamless, and they join the rest of the league in becoming under review. They also send their newly acquired Shadows player to the Tacos. The Crabs have recovered somewhat from the last season, but they may not dominate. In fact, in Season 24, they finished 3rd in their new division of the Black Hole, and due to being nullified on day 80 of the season, they finished 17th of the original 24 ILB teams. They gain 4 wins from the weather, and 2 players take trips elsewhere. Fax Machine makes 1 more pitching change, and there is 1 positive and 1 negative blood rain. Montgomery Bullock is stolen by the Moist Talkers, and as a result of 11 consumer attacks, and no longer being able to defend against them, Herring Winfield is redacted. In Season 24, the Crabs know exactly where they're going, as they head straight for the Black Hole and stay there until they get nullified by its expansion. In the expansion era, the Crabs faced 3 incinerations, 3 feedbacks, 2 reverbs, and benefited from 31 parties. They had 1 allergic peanut reaction, and blood rain was on their side, with 7 positive to 6 negative. Black Hole was not, with 14 negative to 4 positive, but Sun 2 swings back the other way, with 11 positive to 6 negative. None of their players were shelled or unstable, but 6 were observed and 4 redacted. They didn't experience a night shift, but Voicemail made 5 changes, and Fax Machine 10. Their Thieves Guild stole them 1 player, but they lost the most Shadows players in Mild Low with 3. Their players made 32 trips to elsewhere, and had the longest trip in the division, lasting 88 days. They gained 30 wins from Sun 30, but faced 36 consumer attacks, the most in Mild Low. Their Arcana the Fool appeared in 2 seasonal readings. They compete in 6 postseasons, once as a wild card, and win 2 championships, bringing their total to 5. They were given 17 gifts, used 23 wills, and won 14 blessings. At the end of the era, the crabs have been nullified. They gain the modification Entangled. They have a small but mighty team. However, it doesn't quite compare to the glory days that they have known. Thank you for joining me for another Blaxplanation. I'll be back with more Blaseball fun and facts soon, but until then, rejoice, play ball.